All right, thank you. And Rita, it was very interesting. We can stay on afterwards, okay, and hear the rest of it. So anyway, good evening, all of you. And in case you didn't hear that, we are recording. And we welcome all of you as we analyze actions taken and continue to plan our get out and vote effort for the November elections. But first, let us begin with a prayer. Father?
Yeah. Let us all. God, throughout our history as your people, you called us into community. You also continually call us to be just in our relationships with one another. Bless our being with one another this evening. Enable us to discern meaningful ways to invite and encourage our sisters and brothers to become active in this election cycle. May we find ways to encourage them to a depth of thoughtfulness, of respectful dialogue, and prayerful discernment that leads to choices of candidates who will, in their words and their actions, seek after and bring forth what is just. May all our work tonight and in the days and weeks before us bring forth that type of justice that is the hallmark of your kingdom. The Spirit invites us to ask this of you, and we do so through Jesus, your just one, living among us and within us, now and forever.
Amen.
Amen.
And thank you so much, Father. And Skip, you wanted to say something before we get started?
Oh, yeah, I really wanted to thank you, Father, because I know that you're leaving a little early tonight.
Yeah.
Because of your good counsel, we became aware and talked about at our last meeting our need to really be circumspect in everything we do so that we don't get misconstrued as being really a politically partisan group. That's not good for the parish or the community. And I just wanted to say, because the people who did all the research under Jerry's excellent leadership did so much research, some of the things we left out in a judgment of prudence not to be misconstrued, most of those things, if you will watch TV this week, you'll see them coming out in ads taken out by like women voters groups and all some of the groups that we cited that people could look more deeply into. So I feel really good because that information is not going to get lost. It's coming out through other means, and it certainly will be out there. But at the same time, we don't have to worry about um, some of our fellow parishioners misconstruing what we're trying to do.
Thank you so much, Skip. And thank you again, Father, for bringing that to our attention. And because we know we all want the best for this country, and because of part of our We Have a Dream mission statement, advocate for legislation that promotes equity, we may ask people to consider that when looking at candidates of their choice, but we cannot promote candidates when we are representing the church. That means when working on the voter information table or when we door knock on that Saturday, we must be nonpartisan. So you really stepped forward on voting efforts. What a great team. We had many people pick up voter information about the candidates. And again, we thank the subcommittee for their great work led by Jerry. And I don't know that Jack's on yet, but
I haven't seen Jack.
Yeah, he's done a stellar job. I probably wedding plans, you know. He's done a stellar job at the table. So we want to thank all of you, and we truly do appreciate it. We manned the table the last two Sundays, and also we'll do it again on the 29th. Not this coming Sunday because of Anne's party, but we'll do it on the 29th and again on the 13th at the celebration, creation celebration. We'll have a table set up also. And we'll probably see after the 29th if we think we need it again on the October 6th, or if everybody already has the information. So we can make that decision later. And I'll have my computer again each Sunday. So if you talk to anyone who hasn't registered, please ask them to see me, and I'll be happy to help them get registered. So if y'all could remember to also give Jack a special thanks, since he was kind of our anchor at that voter table. And also thank you to all those who wrote postcards in the dining room. So I guess the first thing I wanted to ask, was there any critique of what we could improve or what we need to do differently or anything else that we need to do at church? Oh, by the way, I did talk to Father Chuck, and he's covered those that are in the jail. So I think we might, I was thinking about that a while back. I wonder if anyone's addressed people now that the laws changed. So anyway, I did talk to Father Chuck. He said he's got it all covered. So
So the law has changed so they can vote.
yeah, as
Right.
long as the felony if they've served their time, or if the felony did not involve some sort of election fraud, then they still cannot. But
Right.
otherwise, yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's great.
So is there anything that anybody can think of that we should do or change? Just because we know we could easily be doing something a little inferior. If you have an excellent idea, please bring it forward.
Peggy, I just wanted to ask a question because I haven't been able to participate in the postcard thing. Where are the postcards going?
Well, to different people. Is that, you mean, they're I'm
Yeah,
not.
who are they being sent to?
Sent
What's
out
the
to.
target audience?
Oh, the group, Rita, who's the group we were working on last week? And Bethany's going to send them all to them, and they're going to forward them, or is she mailing them directly?
She mails them directly because she has to put stamps on them. They are going, I think the ones we worked on the Sunday before were all in Virginia, I think.
Virginia, yeah, I saw that.
I'm
Yeah.
sure that's
Probably
right,
did
but I
come-
don't know what they did this past weekend.
So
But she mails them.
yeah, and she received this group. We've got so many groups. Which group was this one did she get the postcards from? Was it Faith and?
Environmental Project was one of them.
So which group? It wasn't Friends of the Earth.
The first one that we did 2 weeks ago was the Environmental Project.
Oh, that's the title.
That was the title of it.
That was the group?
Yeah,
Okay.
because we had to write our first name and then identify, handwritten, identify what group it was. And it
Okay.
was the Environmental Project,
All
whatever.
right, thank you. So people are getting them from different groups, Pat. So like if you go on, for example, NOPE, NOPE's website, I mean, they will send you postcards to mail. So there are different groups that we follow in creation and also in our interfaith groups.
Right,
So,
and I'm sending postcards.
right, I knew you
But
were.
I wasn't sure whether what you were doing was for also Brooks or for the presidential election.
So we can't, this is not, we didn't even send them to Maryland. So this is definitely, and we can't promote a candidate. So it's just to get people out to vote, just to encourage them to vote.
Okay.
So regardless of which organization, and I was out at the other table, so I didn't know which group they were using in the dining room.
Okay.
Last week. So
Okay. So
sorry, I know that doesn't. I can get with you Sunday if you want, and we can look at those if you.
no, that's you answered my question. That's fine.
Okay.
And also I have to leave at 8 because I'm going to a Catholics for Harris call at 8 o'clock. So
Yes, and
Right.
so's Jerry, and there's a NOPE one I signed up for, but it started at 7. But I'm just gonna jump on as soon as I can get there. But that's all right. Well, so we'll just be efficient here then, okay?
Busy days, yes.
Busy days, absolutely. It's all good stuff. I was wondering, was anyone able to watch a 16 or 17-year-old register to vote?
Jerry had her hand up, Peg.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Jerry.
You're on mute.
Jerry,
Jerry.
you're muted. You're muted. Yeah, now you're good.
Sorry, just on what Pat said,
Mhm.
that because we're trying to be nonpartisan, so I signed up tonight for Catholics for Harris as well. And thought I would put that in the chat if anybody wants to do that. And if this is kind of being sponsored by the Democratic National Committee, and it's Catholics for Harris and Walls. But if I find one for Republicans, I'll do the same thing. I'll send it to you all. But
Yes.
thought I could send it to all of you by email if I don't do it correctly in the chat tonight. But I just wanted to forward the link in case when Pat and I leave at 8, if some of you also want to watch that.
Yeah.
I have the
Maybe I can.
okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And if she ends up emailing those, I also have the links to the Georgetown University Initiative on Catholic Thought and Public Life.
Mm.
Faith in the Faithful, they had one, and the same night, and it was very good. Their panels are always good. And the same night, Robert P. Jones and Father Massengale were on the network one. I did watch them both. So I have both links. If you want me to just email everybody both links, you can watch the recordings if you're interested. They were both on the election, and yeah, they were both good.
Always.
Jerry, the thing, the Catholics for Harris, is
It's-
that a postcard thing or?
The webinar tonight at 8 o'clock.
Oh, okay. Thank
I'm going to forward you a link, and if you,
Okay.
and I promise if I see one from the RNC, Catholics for Trump, I'll send that. To you. Oh. I
Great,
but I'll do it.
thank you.
Thank you for your honesty.
All right, so I did talk to someone who volunteered on a Friday night, and their 16-year-old son, I asked him next time they came if they would let me know when they're coming. I'll bring my computer and I'll try to register them so we can see how it's done recently, since I haven't done it in a long time. But they haven't been back yet, so hopefully soon. All right, Skip.
Oh, yes. Next, we really want to turn our heads and our attention to really coming up with some good thoughts about Saturday, September 28th, when we will go door to door in Jonestown. And as you know, that's certainly a predominantly African-American community. When Ray Barr talked to us about the startlingly sad turnout among Black voters in the city, we really felt that we could do something about that. And I think that, for those of us that have some partisan views, it works well without us being partisan. But we really do want to think of some ideas about how we go about that best. We, I guess, would like to know if any of you have are going to volunteer, and if you have any family members that you intend to bring along. That will determine how many will be in a group. We're going to be meeting at the church at 9:30 a.m. at the rectory side door, and we will give volunteers a map of that particular area in Jonestown. We don't want to knock before 10 a.m. We'll be confused with Jehovah's Witnesses.
Oh, yeah.
So we'd like to know who among you will join us. And would you raise your hand, those of us who are going to be down there?
I think I'm going to be there. Depends.
Good, good. Those who will help, please familiarize yourselves with what we are distributing, so that if people do ask a question or two, we're able to talk about it. And I'm sure many of you are calling and writing postcards too. So this is all pulling together. It's one big magnum opus of great work.
Yeah.
So, any
In
ideas?
one second, Skip. Father,
Yeah.
did you have a question, or are you raising your hand to go out with us?
No, I have a question.
Okay, just
so,
checking.
The question is, this is my lack of understanding. Will you be encouraging people to also to apply for mail-in ballots? And one of the questions I have is there any data that would indicate there's a better return via or a better voting out turnout with mail-in ballots versus in-person balloting?
There is some data, Father, in general. I don't know if it sub-specifies different socioeconomic groups. My suspicion might be there are fewer people doing mail-out ballots, in areas that are economically depressed.
Because I wonder it'd be easier for them to vote in terms of transportation to polling centers, although polling centers may be strategically placed in order to enhance people's
yeah.
ability. But as part of that Saturday event, you'll be including. Okay, thank you.
Father, the form, if you pick up one of our forms off the table, it has how to register, it has how to get a mail-in ballot, it has all kinds of information on just voter information, period. And then
Thank
there's
you.
separate sheets, just so people know. Then there's separate sheets, one for Alsabucks and one for Hogan, which is based on their website information, and that's one for each of them.
Yep.
And then we also have that we're going to distribute that day is our flyer for the creation celebration on October 13th. So we'll be giving out all of those things on that Saturday.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Rita,
Do you think maybe some people might need to know what a mail-in ballot is? Because if they've never done it before, they might not be familiar with it.
We will be happy to explain that if we reach the person. In the city, they're mailed out automatically, so everybody should have gotten one last year. But yeah, I mean, hopefully that's why we've asked people to familiarize themselves with the materials so that they.
Everybody gets the application for a mail-in,
oh, yeah, I was gonna say.
not the mail-in
They don't
ballot,
get
Not
the
the mail,
ballot.
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
I understand.
yes.
or
Sorry.
how to, get it.
Okay.
I think Ray Barr had his hand up next.
Mhm.
You're
Ray, you're
muted, Ray.
muted. You're muted.
So my
There.
question is, the format, you knock on the door, they come, you say it's important to vote. What else do you have? And do you impart any wisdom to them, or you just encourage them to vote? But they're gonna have questions.
Right.
I think
Right.
so.
How do we answer those questions?
Well, that's one reason we wanted to be familiar ourselves with all the information that's on the sheets, because I think if we are familiar with that information, we'd probably be able to answer most of the questions they're going to raise. I, and I also, as I said, the population that we're reaching is one that tends to really lean towards the Democratic side in general as a people. So that has good news. If they ask a question, we try to answer it. One of the concerns I had is how do we sort of identify ourselves in a way that they don't think we're proselytizing to convert them or something. And we'll talk about in a few minutes, is there some kind of little thing we can wear or whatever that just sort of lets them know we're your neighbor and we're just doing a neighborly thing. That sort of thing.
I
So
think even
one
if
of-
go on, Peg.
I was just gonna say, one of the things by starting with our invitation to the celebration, the creation celebration, that's kind of telling them who we are. The people on the green team are gonna wear our St. V's green team shirts so that people would recognize us. We were gonna talk a little bit about, did people want to wear a cap? I had this vote thing. Jack
yeah,
wear
yeah.
his vote shirt. I mean, you could really make something on a ball cap that just said
Yeah,
vote.
yeah.
Then you would not be confused with Jehovah's Witness, my guess is.
Well,
Go ahead, Jody.
oh, well, I think too, if just in the very opening sentence, just to say, we're just out encouraging people to vote. Your opinion counts, and
That's good.
the
That's good.
neighborhood,
Yes.
something like that. Just general and invitational.
Yeah, and I do think it's a good chance to really say we're your neighbors, you
Right.
know, down the
Yeah.
street, and we really are just glad to get this chance to meet you. And then after we do that, it makes it easier to say we're doing something kind of special. And if you're free and you're kind of curious, we'd certainly welcome you to that green celebration.
Can
And
we-
we were meeting at 9:30 to give us a half an hour to discuss how to approach people. So
Yeah.
we'll have these things kind of instructions somewhat and talk about it. And that's when people can raise questions too. And somebody in the group might have, oh, I've got a great idea on how to do that. So we're planning on meeting at 9:30, even though we won't start till 10
After
also.
10, yeah.
And I think Chuck Frascati was next with a
You
question.
did have a question, yeah.
No, question or suggestion.
Okay.
Talking about neighbors, it's kind of late now, but you could still maybe contact the Jonestown Association if you're just trying to get the vote out. They may join you for going house to house.
Oh,
That's a good idea. I had them on my list to call and I didn't have I was gonna call the aquarium because they were one of the most active members. I can't find my old JPC list. Does anybody have that with the people on it? My email's out of date on that.
I wonder if Audrey Rogers has kept hers.
Or
She-
Joe
He
Cronin.
never went very much. Who
Oh.
just,
Joe Cronin.
Joe Cronin.
yeah,
Joe Cronin.
he probably would be the best bet. Okay, thanks, Chuck. Father Ray, I think you were next, and then Liz.
Yeah, just to, for letting people know about the green event, and I would suggest, because going back to the Catholic thing, I would suggest that you let people know that for those who are Catholic who would like to come, there'll be mass at 10. If you would, if you'd like to come for the rest of the events, they will start at such and such a time.
Oh, good idea.
Thank you, Father. We have that
Thanks.
mass time on the flyer. But yeah, we'll mention that if they want to come afterwards, that's fine. And if they want to bring their pet for blessing. And we might also mention about saving money on their electric bill, since that may entice some people, since we'll have community solar table also. Hi, Linda. Oh, she can't hear yet. Hi, Rita and Denny.
It's me. Now if I can remember what I was gonna say. Oh, are we by any chance going to do this another day since we have to be out of town?
Knock
We
on doors.
had planned on joining.
As a group, probably not, but somebody today told me they already shared. Jerry DeLombo has given information out to her neighborhood where she lives, so you can do that too where you live.
Yeah.
Hi, Linda.
Now, we did have a rain date in case the weather's bad that day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's
we
true.
did. We had that.
But we don't want it to rain. But
No.
there's an October 12th rain date.
Well, that's not a
Oh.
very green statement.
I
Yeah, well,
don't want it to rain that day. Let me rephrase.
yes, yes,
Peggy, what is the exact day we're supposed to do this?
September 28th,
28,
the last Saturday of this month.
Saturday. Mhm.
We're
that's
not doing
Saturday,
the
yeah.
rain date on the following Saturday because that's an SBCLT event, ribbon cutting. So we made it 10/12. Liz, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, two things. Are we going to each door in pairs or threes, or how is that?
So that's when we'll have at least two. And
Okay,
if we get more people, I called Todd Siegel yesterday and invited him and his son. If they would like to join us, he said yes, he would. Katie Little said she would join us, and she's not on tonight. So depending on how many people we have, will depend on if we go out in twos or threes.
Yeah, and that's why we asked earlier if any of you were thinking about bringing along a family
yeah,
member.
yeah.
Mhm.
Or a friend.
Also,
I mean, ask
Yeah, yeah.
people that you sit by at church, ask people,
Mm.
that live with you. Feel free, because the more we have, the more area we'll be able to
yeah,
cover.
yeah. And secondly, I wonder if someone who's done this could make possibly like a sample script in terms of the ideas that we want to present. Uh,
Well, I was,
thinking about,
oh, sorry.
I don't know, I'm just wondering if we need something to kind of practice from at first, not read it to them, but just have an idea of where we're going with this.
Well,
In
that's
terms of
what I
getting
was
our
going to-
thoughts. I don't know.
Well,
Our
that's
thoughts.
what I was going to have on the instruction sheet that we'll go
Oh,
over at
okay.
9:30, kind of similar to some of those comments.
All right.
So if you have suggestions on what you think should be on that, send it to me and I can add it.
And we're thinking
Okay.
bullets at best, you know, not
Yeah,
really
oh,
a
bullets,
script, just bullets. And then you could,
Okay,
actually,
yeah,
you could
and
pretty much arrange them to fit how you feel and what's comfortable for you.
yeah, because
that would have to be
just-
pretty brief, though. I think really the major
Right.
thing is just encouraging people to get out to vote, so.
Introducing
Yeah.
yourself.
And I'm just thinking maybe setting a tone that, you know, your vote matters, your opinion matters. This is important. It's not just a waste, and you really do count.
Right.
In some of the letters that I've been writing, I've put that in so that people don't think they're just a number out of a billion. That, you know, what you do is important, and I just think that's, you know, something they need to feel and believe.
Absolutely.
Liz, I think you're
Right.
absolutely right. That's a major reason many people don't vote. They just feel they have nothing for which, Martin Luther King said it one time, they have nothing for which to vote.
Mm.
So that's the attitude we're trying to dispel by saying, no, it's really important. You are important. Your view is important, you know.
Okay,
And if
good.
you
Thank
have
you.
one of those, your vote counts signs, or, you can always stick it on a binder or something that you're carrying with you and people will see
Mhm.
that right away, or
Yes,
like I
yes.
said, if you want to put something on a hat, that would work
Mhm.
too. Or we could
Okay,
all
yeah, good. All right, yeah.
t-shirts like Jack Schmidt has it, his vote across it.
Oh, yeah,
That
yeah.
was great.
That was good. That was good, yeah.
All right, any other questions?
This.
Rita? You're muted still.
I was going to say the issue that you were talking about earlier about people not being able to vote because of a prior jail sentence.
Mhm.
You might, in case there are people that bring that up, like I can't vote, you know, you can make sure that everybody knows the stipulations of when that decision was made, that they can vote as long as they've served their sentence, and, you know, make sure people know that, because I think a lot of people don't.
Yeah, I would only do that, as you say, Rita, if someone brought it up or shared it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Because
I'll
that's
have-
what Father is covering it with the
Yeah,
the prisons.
But that's what at the prison though. She means if someone is out of jail.
Yeah.
I'll check my list. I might have that on there already, Rita, but I'll check and see. All right, anything else?
What time is everyone meeting? I know you probably went through this. Just, is there a time?
No
That's
problem.
quite all right. We're meeting-
9:30 that Saturday morning, and we're going and use the side door to the rectory.
That's off the parking lot, Linda. I was
Okay.
thinking you said you were flying back that day though.
Oh,
I don't know. That's a Saturday?
It's a Saturday.
I
mhm.
know, I think I'll have to check, but
Oh,
thank
great.
you. Thank
Super.
you.
All right. And let me know if you don't know where we are or
Okay.
anything.
No, I know where you are.
Okay,
Okay.
super. Skip, did you want to continue?
Yeah, I think we pretty much touched on something that will identify us, you know, with vote just on it, whatever. So the next thing that we thought we wanted to just bring up was to ask if anyone was able to watch Network's discussion with that wonderful trio of Father Brian Massengale, Robert Jones, whom we read and talked about a couple of years ago, and Sister Joan Neal. That was on September 11th on white supremacy and American Christianity. We choose freedom. Did anybody get a chance to see that? And could you share something of that just a little bit, Jody?
Yeah, I will send out the recording to everyone afterwards, that and the, also the, Georgetown University one also, which was a panel of 5, and that was excellent. Yeah, they were both focused on the debate and what they saw as the highlights, what they thought was important. So it pretty much what you'd probably imagine Robert P. Jones and Father Massengale would say. And, of course, all the disinformation and lies and things, were mentioned, but I'll send out the recordings and people can watch them. I think it'll be worth it. Did anybody else see it? Okay, yeah, they were both
What's
on
the length of it, Jody?
One of them was an hour and a half and one of them was an hour. I forget which one was which. One was 6 to 7, but I think that one ran over, and then the other one was 7 to 8, and they kept that might have been to 8:30. They might have both been about an hour and a half. But they're worth it. The Georgetown University does the Q&A at the end, and always, so that they're both worthwhile.
And the other thing, I don't know if anybody received it, but on September 25th, our friend Matt Taylor, remember, he's the guy we had in the basement that first introduced some of us to Christian nationalism that were ignorant about it. But ICJS is putting on something that evening, and they said it would be, you can sign up for it if you want to go. It's at Central Presbyterian Church, but they did say that there would be a recording of it afterwards. So he's kind of become and NPR, I think, they're going to interview him at that event, and he's kind of, I guess, the authority across the country, and so we were just lucky. I guess we got him before his notoriety. So anyway, because I'm sure those who were there remember how fantastic he was. So
well,
Yeah,
if
book
people
out
heard,
too.
oh, what was that,
Larry?
right?
He has a book out now too. I think pay you let me know. It's called Violent, Take It by Force. Matthew Taylor.
right, it's book lunch. That's what this is about. It's a
Right.
book lunch kind of thing.
And did people hear about, I just heard it on NPR one morning, about the $60 credit they're paying people to go to this public school where they intend to teach Christianity in the curriculum? Has anybody heard of that?
No.
Just be careful.
Yeah, no, it was, I had not, heard of it before, and it sounded like there's a big push to, well, as you know, as we know, there's a push in some quarters to make Christianity a national religion, and
Religion.
this is a piece of that, trying to move it into the public school. So anyway, I'll keep an eye out for that.
Well, that's all a part of trying to end the National Department of Education and establish local control, which doesn't necessarily mean state control. It could go county by county.
Yeah, this was a state that was doing it, and I don't
Yeah.
remember which one. I was just waking up.
And so it's a very serious issue, because can you imagine a country our size and with our diversity, with no real nationally consistent standards to mark excellence or quality, curriculum or education, and no real guarantor to continue to promote issues of equity, since most funding is by where you live, the county you live in or whatever. And so imagine what Montgomery County can do and Howard County can do with the tax money that they get for education, as opposed to what Baltimore City, which is a poor city, can do, or some of the rural counties. And with no agent leveling that and leavening that, like the State Department of Education in Maryland, and then doing it at a national level, which has a great deal of funding for special needs children and special things like that, which really took a lead role in promoting women's equity with some of the articles, of the Constitution deal, so that you've got equity in women's sports, not just sports focusing only on men and funding men. Imagine all of that going away, and what we would be reverting to, and yet supposed to be a world leader.
And Robert P. Jones and Father Massengill, I mean, they were talking about, the separation of church and state and how this Christian nationalism is, trying to change that. So.
And what Skip was talking about is what we talked about quite a while when we were talking about systemic racism and the things that were embedded in education and the legislation that caused all that.
Yep.
So anyway, so let's go on to some good news. Oh, wait.
Yes,
The
please.
first part of this isn't good news. Wait a minute, never mind. If you read the e-news last week, I hope you watched the video of the coal dispersion in Curtis Bay. Oh my gosh. I mean, it would be wonderful if we could have a group join us to support South Baltimore Community Land Trust, our partners, as they continue to fight this injustice that just continues. And we know it's caused by systemic racism. So if you can join us at 6 p.m. on October 10th in Curtis Bay, and I don't have my calendar in front of me to see what day it is. I think it might be a Thursday. If anybody has their calendar handy, they can verify that. But anyway, it's at 6 o'clock. Thanks, Rita. 6 o'clock on October 10th, and it's in Curtis Bay. And as you know, a lot of you joined us at the city council when we were fighting the black coal dust in court. And they did get a settlement on that, but can you see by the video that it's just still continuing? It was horrible. I mean, just to think they're breathing that in daily is just awful. Anyway, okay, now for the good news. So a few reminders, and I did have this in the e-news too, but just so you know, so SBCLT is having a few events. They have 30 homes now in development, and there's a ribbon cutting on October 5th from 11 to 1, and that's at 1129 Monroe Circle. And I think I put the address in the e-news. And then on November 9th, and if you all want, I can send this to you again. I can email you all if you're on this call, if you'd like it. Okay. And then on November 9th from 11 to 1, that's at Hazel Street, which I think is 1631 Hazel Street. I'll verify that. And then they also invited us to their annual thankfulness event, which is on November 5th from 5 to 8. I assume that's a Friday.
November 8th is on our script.
Right, November, what did I say, not November 8th?
Yeah, you said November
election day.
5th, 5 to 8, yeah. November 8th from
because it's
5 to
5
8.
to 8, sorry, it's November 8th
Okay.
from 5 to 8. I'm pretty sure it's a Friday because I never can go on Fridays, so I think it's a Friday. So anyway, you could think about attending any or all of these, but it's very exciting. They have that many properties in progress, and so the ribbon cutting should be a fun event. So
Jerry?
Just want to say, and I've said this before, but I get all teary about this Curtis Bay thing because my dad was in the war and my mother and I lived with my grandmother at 1602 Hazel Street.
Oh my goodness.
Right across from the playground and right across from the recreational center in the park. So my grandfather's barbershop was there and we lived behind it and upstairs until my dad came home from the war. Obviously, I don't remember a lot of it. I was like a toddler, but my grandmother lived there until she died when she was in her 80s. And we had every Christmas and I already had 2 kids. We were still going to my grandmother's for Christmas on Hazel Street. And so that's just in the middle at the matrix of all this. So every time we talk about Hazel Street, we talk about Curtis Bay. When I watched that terrible ash go over that recreation, I remember playing cards in that playground in the summer times and swinging on those swings and being that recreational center. And they were just such, obviously the population has changed, but they were all Polish and Lithuanians and Ukrainians, and they spoke their own languages, and they went to St. Athanasius, and it was such a wonderful cultural thing. And they took their food to be blessed by the priest on Easter. And although the neighborhoods changed, it's still a good, solid working class family. And Tom and I both, and Tom's
I
grandparents,
lived right up the street from.
2 doors.
Ah,
He lived there. He lived there.
Didn't
Wow.
even know each other.
Yeah.
Jerry, was there a coal ash problem then?
Well, yeah, there was always like, we moved up market. We moved to Brooklyn, and
Uh-huh.
like a mile and a half away or something. And it would
Mhm.
be this terrible odor that would come, and everybody would say, it's Curtis Bay.
Uh,
Curtis Bay today. And you could see the haze in the air. And you know, my dad had cancer, my mother had cancer, Tom's sister had cancer, Tom's
oh,
had cancer. Because they grew up around all these fumes and everything. So it's so real to me whenever I'm reading about it and hearing about it. And to Tom, whose grandmother lived 2 doors from my grandmother. And look, we grew up and met each other when we were out of college and got married. But how serendipitous is it, God's grace, that our grandmothers lived 2 doors away from each other on Hazel Street across from the playground.
Hmm.
I mean,
And that's one of the reasons too, Jerry, that we're so happy with SBCLT, and that's because of the way they are building their homes.
right.
So, I mean, we saw some in construction where the triple walls, I mean, they are trying to make it zero contamination so that the people who live in these homes are going to be safe from a lot of the air pollution, because, you know, we know the medical incinerators down there, there's just,
yes.
you know, everything bad gets put in poor neighborhoods, and
And
it's
it's not just local medical waste.
Mm.
It's unbelievable.
shipped in from other states.
From others.
Yes.
And all this with CSI. But the good part of the good news is just the week before last, right on the border is the public school there where Tom actually went to school, and I student taught there, which is so funny as a student teacher. But the Ravens were there last week, and they gave all the kids in the neighborhood backpacks, and they had with school supplies in them, and the kids could pick the backpacks in any color they wanted. And these little tiny kids that you didn't think could walk were putting these great big purple backpacks. And so the friends were down there right in that neighborhood so there are good things happening. And I just love it that we're supporting all that. You know?
Yes. We're part of it. Yeah.
And yay for the Ravens too, you know,
Yeah.
to do that.
Thank you, Jerry. It does, you know, it just makes it more personal and you know, Linda, I'm thinking right now, you may be the only one that you probably do not get our e-news. Would you like me
No.
to send it to you? I'll send you the one
Sure,
from last week, because there's
sure.
the information about some of the things that we're talking about.
Yeah, thank you.
I better make a note, because, you know, I'll forget.
Jody will remind you.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, Judy, could you take notes for me, please?
Yes, happy to.
I just did it. Thank you. All right. So anyway, SBCLT, excellent.
Mhm.
Also concerning when you vote, we received requests from Advance Maryland and from Unite and from Odette Ramos asking us to vote against 2 ballot issues if they would, because they believe they would harm the city. This is just for city residents. And there's been a back and forth about one not being allowed on the ballot, and that's being appealed. So I'm not sure the status, but the 2 that they ask us to vote against, and you can read them yourself and decide for yourself. But Renew Baltimore was for property tax cuts, which sounds good, but they said it would mean a lot of budget cuts in the city for the residents. And then the second one was reducing city council from 14 to 8 members, which they were against that also. So please study them and vote your conscience on both of those ballot issues. And again, it's possible that only one of those will be on the ballot, depends on who wins the battle at the moment. Any other
Jody.
questions or
Jody?
Jody?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up, you were mentioning that event that you wanted to support SBCLT. Why don't you go back to that? Because I don't think you asked any people, or are you going to like announce it at church and like maybe get a little group that can then spread, like, is anybody else going to that?
That's a good idea.
Kind of spread it, like go back to that right now, I think, and just spend a
Yeah,
little.
especially to let the
Please.
church in general know.
Yeah,
So
'cause
I'm
they might wanna
pretty
join you.
sure I wrote the e-news information for it. I'm just not sure if it went in last week or if it's scheduled for a future week, which has the events, but I'll make sure. And then I'm going to go back right now because my sister asked me to.
Well, I'm even thinking like, Jerry, what you just said, I mean, passing that on to other people. And then this is the event we're supporting and, or the place that we're supporting. And you're tied to it. I mean, just like spreading those little personal invitations, and I think would make a difference.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is, my daughter-in-law, by the way, is from that area as well. I'm trying to think of the neighborhood just outside of Cherry Hill, just where you get there. That's where Joe.
Westport?
Brooklyn?
West. And for so long, because you had to go over the Hanover Street Bridge and all, it was seen as a community apart. And
Mhm.
so things that help to tie us into realizing, we're really our neighbors because we're that close. We're just that bridge apart. But for so long, I know Cherry Hill was seen as a distinctly separate sort of neighborhood off to itself.
Yeah, we'll have to think about how we can do that. I feel like people are so sick of my announcements because I seem to make announcements on so many things and some people hate announcements. So, but that would be
Everybody
great.
grabs one person.
Yeah, that would be great if Jerry, maybe we can talk to share your story somehow with maybe at the time that we appeal. It's coming to the time where we'll appeal for end of the year funds that people donate. A lot of people donate at the end of the year. So maybe we can tie your story into that. Hi, Jack.
No.
Jack.
And yeah, and I'm sure it's in the e-news, but I will verify which week. So just to repeat what Jody was talking about. So there's a ribbon cutting ceremony on October 5th, and it's from 11 to 1. And it is at 1129 Monroe Circle. And on November 9th,
From 11 to 1.
from 11 to 1, it's
Hazel.
at 1630 Hazel Street.
We won't be around then.
And then, as I said, they also invited us to their thankfulness event, which is on November 8th,
We won't
which
be
is
around.
5 to 8
PM.
p.m. Thank you, Skip. Rita and Denny.
I had a personal thing too. I already fixed the sound. I had a personal occurrence too. When I went to elementary school, I went to school in South Baltimore, which is now called Federal Hill, at Holy Cross. And we had some children come from either Brooklyn or Curtis Bay area. They came by bus, but their school bus or somebody transport them. Anyway, my very best friend, the last several years, I guess 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, was from Curtis Bay. I can't remember the street she lived on because she moved during high school years into the suburbs, but I remember going to Curtis Bay many times.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I wash trucks in Curtis Bay.
Peggy, I want to be conscious that we don't want to lose our closing speaker, Ray, because I think he said he had to leave us at 8.
Not Ray Barr, Ray,
Father Ray.
Father Ray
Oh,
has to leave at 8. Don't worry.
He's gone.
Yes.
Right. He said he had to leave early. He had
Early.
another meeting.
Oh,
I think
not
it was
Ray
at
Barr.
7:30 or 7. He was just going to hop on to start. Hi, Mary Catherine.
Jack.
by the way, Jack, we gave you kudos for being such an anchor person on our table, voting table earlier.
Thank you.
We figured you were busy making wedding plans and that took priority.
Congratulations.
Well, I was, but I lost track of the time.
Quite all right. We know you have a lot on your mind right now. Reed and Denny, is that a new hand or an old hand? An old hand, I'll
Old.
take that. All right. Any other questions anybody have?
Isn't Sharon Hunt on that committee down in Southeast Falls?
He's on their board.
He's
Yes,
on the
you're right.
chair.
Yeah, she'd be good for a spokesperson and communicating more, because she has a tendency to be an advocate of that, and let her speak more.
Right. She's usually on this meeting, Ray. And she's not on tonight, but she's usually on here.
In church too, making
Does she come
announcements
to
and
church?
things like that. She has a way
Yeah.
of bringing people on.
Right. And
Great idea.
we've
Help you.
Yeah, we've encouraged her to write things for the e-news too, which would be great. So
Yeah.
yeah, feel free to put that bug in her ear too, because
Will
yeah,
do.
she knows yeah, she knows a lot more than the rest of us about it, that's for sure.
And didn't she say there's a new person on their board that does a lot of the communication stuff that could be writing up some of these little
So
synopses?
that's who sent me some of the information on the progress report I put in there. I forget her name at the moment, maybe Rachel something. Anyway, she did send me that information that I included in the e-newsletter, either already or to come. Colleen's going to be away, so she asked for weeks of e-news information, so I can't remember which one it was. So
Thanks.
yes, but thank you, Ray. Good idea. So I guess anybody who got on late that wants to go out with us door knocking, I think everybody's,
Mary
I know Jack might stay at church and catch latecomers for us. Mary Catherine, I know walking's a little difficult, yeah, for you. So, okay. All right. Is there anything else? We might just end early so people can jump on these get out and vote things that they want to do. So before we do, Ray Barr will lead us in our final prayer.
Okay. I want to preface this is a racism group, and African Americans sometimes are noticed for fighting against injustice, but also in my reading, there's a number of them very much interested in the love of justice and equal treatment under the law and the like. And I want to read to you just a short quote from W.B. Boyce. Few people are ever worshipped freedom with half such unquestionable faith as did the American Negro for 2 centuries. So he, along with Frederick Douglass and James Baldwin, always expressed they didn't want to do anything but live in this country and fight for equal justice. So love for justice, and that's part of democracy, is very important. So
That's part of Christianity too.
Right. And my prayer is this: the world now is too dangerous and too beautiful for anything but love. May your eyes be so blessed you see God in everyone, your ears so you hear the cry of the poor. May your hands be so blessed that everything you touch is a sacrament, your lips so you speak nothing but the truth with love. May your feet be so blessed that you run to those who need you, and may your heart be so open, so set on fire, that your love changes everything. Thank you.
Amen.
Beautiful.
Amen.
Thank you, Ray.
Ray, I have to tell you, that's one of my favorite prayers, and I actually wrote a melody for it, and I sing it at every baptism that I do.
Ooh,
Well, that sounds, that'd be nice to hear that.
I love those words. It's beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I start each day with them.
Thank you. So Okay, I
Thank you.
sent everybody the link for the program that Pat Ball and I are gonna watch now. So I sent it to you in your email, so hopefully you'll be able, it's starting in like 2 minutes and it's Catholics for,
Irish swans.
For one of our candidates.
For a candidate, yeah.
And I'll put those 2 links in I'll email those 2 links for those 2 Zooms that were on. They were great.
If you want to send it to me, Jody, I'll include it with the stuff that I'll email everybody. So, all
Totally.
right, well, thank you all so much for hanging in there.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
thank you.
Dennis, to your point, Dennis, I'm reading a book right now and it was talking about so many of the Black Catholics and how they have just held on when the church and the country have just treated them so horribly, and it's just faithfulness.
And
to
love.
God.
That reminds me, Peggy,
Love,
the book you gave me a few weeks ago, it's a fantastic book. I
That's
just
the
thought
one
it
I'm
was just,
talking about.
wow. If you want to learn, I mean, I'm learning Black Catholic history that I never knew before.
That's the
And
one
so
I
many
promised
different,
you, Raybar, to give you next. And Dennis, I think, did I give you one already? I think, Dennis.
Give me one.
Anyway, so
That
we'll just
book.
pass it on to somebody else when you're finished with it. So,
What's
Oh.
the name of the book?
when do you have it there? When we
it's
all
right in the other room.
yeah, mine's in the other room too. When we all something, I forget.
Mhm.
I've only read 320 pages so far. You'd think I'd remember the title. Oh.
It's okay. I couldn't remember all the stuff that I heard on the Zoom either. It was
Oh, I'm gonna
good.
stop. Oh, well, I won't stop the recording until we get the name of the book on there. Here we go.
We have heard what we have seen and heard.
What we have
And
seen.
it's really a number of different essays. Father Sterling, the pastor of New All Saints, now retired, going into the African presence in the Catholic Church that no one ever acknowledges in terms of the early church fathers and the African roots of part of our church. And then it goes into the history of the Catholic Church in Maryland, all the counties. I mean, women in the Catholic, Black women in the Catholic. It's really
And Skip, what's the author again?
Who's the author?
Teresa.
Essays and Stories from Black Catholics of Baltimore by the Office of African American Ministries, Archdiocese of Baltimore. So maybe one thing we can do is get in touch. I forget her name, the new head of the Black Catholic
Yeah,
Ministries.
I know who you
Hey,
mean.
Oh, okay.
I have that book, and
Oh, you
it was
have that.
written about 10 years ago, and the person who wrote it, who put it
Exactly.
together, was Teresa. I forget her
Wilson
last name.
Favors.
Teresa,
Wilson
and she
Favors.
was leaving at that time, and she left with that, giving out that book.
Oh,
Yes,
perfect.
Teresa
Oh,
Favors was
So I have the
awesome.
book. I'll
Yeah.
just
okay,
get it
thank
out.
you. Well, then I'll give it, who said they wanted it? Because I only have